my phone was right beside me, and a message came in from our unit WhatsApp group. And I remember reading the headline, IDF releases names of soldiers killed. And the guys were listed there. Eli, Oi, Sagi, Ben, Lee.
I hear this a lot in the American media. Maybe they've gone a little too far as their counterattack.
It's just mind-boggling to me that anybody actually has the audacity to put a label such as, disproportionate response by Israel. Israel's gone too far. We still have dozens of hostages that have not been released.
I know they always talk about the idea of a two-state solution.
Two-state solution, quite frankly, the Palestinians have already received that. They already received 20 years, here's your Gaza. What are you going to make of it? What is your choice? And we see what their choice is. Their choice is to spend 20 years and billions of dollars preparing for the Holocaust of the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator. Today, it has been 1 year since the terrible terrorist attacks in Israel. We speak with a member of the IDF Special Forces Counter-Terror Unit, Nir Maman. Since October 7, Nir has served multiple deployments in Gaza. He'll share some of what he's seen and the impact the war has had on his life, his loved ones, and his fellow soldiers. Before we start the show, just a quick ask. If you enjoy Common Denominator, we'd be grateful if you'd like, comment, and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to this podcast. It helps promote the show, and it helps us get great guests. Thanks so much. Now here's my incredible conversation with Nir Maman. Thank you, Nir, for joining Common Denominator.
Thank you, Moshe. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Take us back when October 7, 2023 happened. Where were you, and what was going on in your life at the time?
The entire week prior to October 7th, I was actually in Michigan teaching a course at a police academy there, running actually a Krav Maga instructor certification course for police instructors. And I finished the course on Friday, October 6th, jumped in the car. It was I think like a 5 or 6 hour drive home. I decided to jump in the car and drive home that night instead of staying overnight and driving the next day because, I wanted to be with my family. And the one thing that I can tell you that was really strange is that I'm driving about halfway through the drive. It's nighttime, it's dark out. And out of nowhere, I started to get sick to my stomach in the sense of a really bad feeling of apprehension, nervousness, like something bad was going to happen. Now, I didn't know that it was something bad that was going to happen, but I started to get overwhelmed with this feeling, and I had no clue why and what was going on. So I dismissed it. Got home at around 11:30 at night. When I woke up in the morning, my phone was steaming hot from all of its activity. And I remember rolling over in bed. I pick up my phone, I turn it on, or I take off the do not disturb mode, and messages were just ramping up. And then I noticed also personal messages from friends of mine who are all Israeli, all members of the IDF, either still current serving or, once upon a time served, quite a few of them here in North America, between the US and Canada. And messages like, bro, do you see what's going on? Nir, what are you doing? Are we getting on a plane? Are we going over? And between that moment and probably about the next 4 to 5 hours is when I spent all that time trying to reach people, reading the news, headlines, going into my groups, trying to figure things out. There was a delay of information in all of our groups because everybody was in the field. So, I understood something significant was going on. But then again, when is there not anything significant going on in relation to Israel and terrorism? But like I know every single Jew in the world, I had no clue at what it was that we were we were facing and what was going to be.
So in your case, how were you able to get back into combat?
My wife and I, we kind of had a deal. I mean, my wife immediately, when everything was going on, we were learning what was happening. She said, "Look, you need to go. You don't have to convince me. I understand. We'll figure everything out." Right. So the only thing that I ask of you is that you promise me that we have a moment to figure out how we're going to sit with the kids and tell them what's going on and that their daddy is now packing up and going to war. So that was a deal that we had. I was invited within those 3 weeks prior to going away. I was invited to speak at different synagogues and different, obviously, events that were suddenly, taking place for the cause of Israel. And one of those events at a big congregation, there were politicians there. It made the news. And after it aired, I remember receiving a text message from my oldest daughter, Liam, and she said, "Is it true that you're going to Israel?" So all of a sudden, my heart stopped. I'm like, well, the cat's out of the bag. She found out. My wife and I didn't figure out how we're going to tell them. We didn't have this conversation yet. And I didn't know what to say, right? But I said to her, "Look, I'm not sure yet, but there's a strong possibility that I'm going to go." So she replied to me. Obviously, it's one of the messages that I will say for the rest of my life. She said, "Look, as much as I never want you to leave home, our people right now need you more than we do. So please go." So, on the one hand, to me, that was obviously a huge relief because, there's no way that I would have been able to be there with a clean head without knowing that my family is behind me. So the days are going by. I think we were about a week and a half, 2 weeks after October 7th. I'm real sorry.
I think as a father, I relate to that.
So we finally got to the point about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, that my wife and I decided, because by this time I had my orders from the IDF, and we decided that we're going to sit down that night and we are going to figure things out and how we're going to have a conversation with the kids. It was around midnight. We finally got the kids to bed and we came down to the couch and we literally just looked at each other and said, "Okay, so what's the plan?" And as soon as we said that, a message came in. My phone was right beside me, and a message came in from our unit WhatsApp group. And I remember reading the headline: IDF releases names of soldiers killed. So because it was in my group, I knew that it was our unit. So I opened it up. And the guys were listed there: Eli, Oi, Sagi, Ben, Lee. I couldn't believe it. I had never actually in my life, in almost 30 years in this line of work, lost any colleagues, any friends of mine in service anywhere. I was in shock. I mean, you can see how I still have a hard time with it. So you can imagine that moment. My wife just looked at me. She took my hand and she said, just go, do what you need to do. I have the home front. Don't worry. God has us. Everything will be fine. And
strong wife. Your wife must be amazing. Yeah.
I've been very, very blessed with the gift that God gave me with my wife and my kids, 100%. And that's it. And November 1st, like I said, I was on a plane in full uniform. My commanders came to pick me up at the airport. By November 2nd, I was in the field in Hebron. And it's been 11 months so far. I've been back home, I think three, maybe 4 times. This right now is the longest break that I've had.
I'm sure there's a lot that you can't share that you've seen, but maybe there's some things that you've seen or done in the field that you can't share.
So the majority of all of our work in Gaza, between both the units that I was in Gaza with, was a lot of search and destroy operations, in the sense of we would raid buildings where we know Hamas was operating out of, locate tunnels for destruction, try to find intelligence on where the hostages might be. We would raid buildings where intelligence, gave indication that hostages at one point were there.
And do you believe that there are live hostages today?
I believe that there are, yes. I'm not very optimistic about the numbers, but I do believe that there are still, yes, and for the sole reason that the hostages, all the terror groups that are involved in this, the hostages are obviously the most important bargaining chips for them and the most important blanket of security for them. And so it is in their best interest to keep as many of these hostages alive as possible.
The narrative over these months, I watched the narrative, right? So everyone was shocked what happened on October 7th. But in America, to me, it seems, I have my own opinions, but I just want to hear from you, that they feel that the IDF, I hear this a lot in the American media, maybe they've gone a little too far as their counterattack. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a very interesting terminology, too far. I've been, obviously, I try not to, but I have, especially at the beginning of the war, middle of the war, watched a lot of the online social media platforms out there, a lot of the Pierce Morgans and all this stuff. And it's just mind-boggling to me that anybody actually has the audacity to put a label such as, disproportionate response by Israel. Israel's gone too far. We still have dozens of hostages that have not been released. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me that at the very least, if that aspect was remedied, if they released all the hostages, the nature of this war can take a whole different approach and a whole different protocol. We also have parallel, while people are forgetting this, parallel to the hostage situation throughout the entire duration from October 7th, nonstop. Let's not talk about the previous decades. Let's just go to October 7th for a second, because everybody seems to make that the focal point when you look at, all the social media and news talks. From October 7th until today, we still have missiles flying in from the Gaza, missiles flying in from Lebanon. So, until the missiles stop raining, at the very least, what in the world is a proportionate response? Whatever we have been doing has still not caused the hostages to be released, has still not stopped missiles from raining in. So I'm really baffled by all this. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talked a little bit before the show that of all things that I've thought, at least using my mind to think about, I think that this war, this issue, is the hardest issue to come up with a sustainable solution over a long period of time. I know they always talk about the idea of a two-state solution. I believe that it's a very minimum amount of Israeli citizens that would agree to that. I know Netanyahu is completely against that. And I know that they, in American, politics, they talk about that idea. What is the general, just so the audience can understand, what is the general negative point to a two-state solution that theoretically would be that both live in peace? Could that even be possible? Because I just want to go to that concept for a second.
Sure. Let's first really clarify who's involved in this entire situation, not just this war. Okay. One of the things that bothers me, I understand why our administration says this, but one of the things that bothers me is when I keep on hearing Israel's issue is not with the Palestinians, it's with Hamas. That's not true. That's not true. The fact of the matter is that Hamas is Palestine. Palestine is Hamas. The fact of the matter is that the well over 3,000 of the terrorists that infiltrated Israel on October 7th, more than 2/3 of them were these so-called innocent Palestinians that don't belong to the Hamas organization. This situation will never come to an end until it is first ideologically resolved. It has nothing to do with land. We know that Israel has given away over 66,000 square kilometers of land, within the last 70 years for peace. It has nothing to do with rights and humanitarian issues. It has nothing to do with any of that. The fact of the matter is that when these Palestinians are left to their own devices, the only thing that they do is they continue to raise their kids to hate us. They continue to indoctrinate their kids on picking up guns and spilling the blood of Jews. This is where the problem lies. I don't care for what the world has to say because the world does not live this problem. So there's nothing that they have a value that will, contribute to this two-state solution. Quite frankly, the Palestinians have already received that. They already received 20 years. Here's your Gaza. What are you going to make of it? What is your choice? And we see what their choice is. Their choice is to spend 20 years and billions of dollars preparing for the Holocaust of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. That right there is your ultimate determining factor of what they will do if tomorrow we put down our guns, we open up our borders, we entertain them becoming an official state. I mean, this is Palestine, the unofficial state. Look what they were able to accomplish. If they become an official state now, look at the amount of support that they have from the UN, from the international community. If they now become legitimized, what happens to that support? All right, they're going to have far more of it. So I don't care to hear any more about two-state solutions. They've been given the test over and over and over, and they prove what their only desire is: the extermination of the Jewish people, and the byproduct of that, the extermination of the state of Israel. When the day comes that the Palestinians start to love their kids more than they hate us, when they put down their ideology, eradicate their ideology of hate, when they stop to eat up this false history that they have created for the simple sake of weaponizing it for a war against us, then we can entertain, whatever they want to talk about from a diplomatic standpoint. But that's my opinion on the matter.
How do you see? Because an ideology is an ideology that permeates thousands, millions, billions, who knows how many people.
Sure.
How do you come up with a solution? Let's just say step one, to end the war. How does that happen? That doesn't drag on for another 9 years, 10 years. How does that happen?
Sure. Look, obviously, I don't have the answer. I'm not the guy who's going to, it's not Nir Maman who's going to solve the issue. What I can tell you from what I've experienced and observed and what I believe, all right, we have been in a constant cycle of ceasefires with the Palestinians for years. Missiles did not start raining into Israel on October 7th. Missiles have been raining into Israel for the past 20, 25 years. So I think that things have to be approached from a perspective of every tangible has to be resolved. What do I mean by that? The groundwork for the ceasefire, which I think is very common sense, has been laid out to the Palestinians 17 times, which they have rejected every single time. Okay? The Palestinians will always cry that there's a problem, and every time you give them a solution, they make a problem out of the solution. All right? That's the underlying foundation here. However, very simple, very simple. Release the hostages. Dismantle Hamas. It doesn't get any simpler than that. You give us those two things, the IDF comes out, ceasefire immediately, let's go to the table. I don't understand how anything else can possibly be made more clear, more simpler and more common sense and logic. This goes to show you what the Palestinians want. So I don't think that we can, and I don't think that we should put the brakes on anything until, at minimum, those two things are guaranteed to us and they're put on the table. Yeah. Why Hamas? Why Palestine? The Palestinians don't want to accept this. I mean, that's the question. That's the question. We don't care. Look at how many IDF soldiers have been lost so far. Nobody wants that. We don't want that. You know, I'm so grateful that I can be back in service side by side with my brothers out in the field, but I assure you, Gaza is not where I care to be. So I don't know that, that I can contribute anything else to that solution. That's my opinion on the matter. I think that we have to ignore what the world is saying and that we have to continue forward because when we put the brakes on things, all that happens is it gives them more time to ramp up, to get more weapons, to strategize our execution, and then to create causes to attack us. I don't know that I can offer anything else, intelligent or to say on that.
No, it's extremely hard. I just wanted to hear your perspective, but I want to say thank you so much, Nir, because obviously, I got emotional, so did you, and this is really tough. You're dealing with people's lives, you're dealing with families, friends. I want to just share one quick story because this was one story that really blew my mind. I met a fellow a few weeks ago. He's the head of Mizrahi, which is an organization in Israel, and he had two sons, an 18 and 20-year-old. His 20-year-old calls him that day on October 7. He says, "Dad, I'm okay. I'm shot in the leg." And they were both on duty. The other son was in the tank. The one that was shot in the leg, he was getting married. He was to get married 10 days later. Wow. And the son, and they found out later that the son was in the tank. He was taken. They didn't know. So the father had to make a decision. He was originally from South Africa. He had to make a decision. Do they have the wedding? And this was just something that really stuck in mind again as fellow fathers, right?
Yes.
And a few months later, they did end up burying him. They found DNA evidence, the 18-year-old boy, but they did have a wedding 10 days later. October 17, they had a wedding. And the father said that it was the happiest and the saddest day of my life. And on the ground, what's really going on, if you're someone that feels and just, it's wild. But I want to say thank you for coming on. Please be safe. Please take care of your family. Please take care of all your loved ones. And how could people help? Is there some sort of charity or some way to help that people listening?
Yeah. First, I want to say thank you very much for having me on. I'll tell you that, I don't know when the day will come that I'll be able to finally pause and really process a lot of everything that's gone on. For me, being back in service, that's one of my ways to kind of heal, to feel like I'm doing something and be there with all my guys. But I think the biggest thing that we've seen in this entire past almost year now is, unfortunately, it takes such evil to bring the Jewish people together. But at the very least, just like that father said, both the happiest and the saddest day of his life, with all of this hardship and heartbreak that we are all facing as a Jewish people, at the very least that we do have each other, and we have some things to look forward to in a positive way and to be here for each other. And, I have a hard time talking about a lot of all this stuff, but at the same token, I appreciate the opportunity to. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with our people and to share and talk like this. So I thank you for that. As far as helping, listen, I have a campaign that I started October 7th. The issues that we have on the ground with soldiers not having proper equipment, that you know, everybody's already well aware of that, and I can attest to that. I can show you videos and pictures even coming out of Gaza just last month, okay, with a lot of my fellow soldiers that are still wearing antiquated helmets from the 90s and ripped up vests. And, you know, that is an ongoing issue. And I started a campaign to try to address all that. I had a lot of wonderful people that have come to the table to help. I think that in total so far in the past 11 months, I've been able to raise close to $250,000 worth of equipment between helmets and vests and drones and you name it. Months ago, many months ago, that morphed to people coming to me, units, battalions, or individual soldiers, whether them asking me independently for help or whether, for example, our counter-terror unit association, we have 41 lone soldiers that serve in the unit that don't have parents in Israel or don't have parents at all. And about 6 months ago, the association reached out to me, said, look, is there any way you can help? The holidays are coming up. We want to get all of them gift baskets with phone cards to call home, grocery cards, cell phone cards, you know, gift certificates, whatever they need. And I have literally been donating every paycheck that I've been getting from the IDF for my reserve duty. Instead of taking home to my family, I've been donating it to the association. All of my trips back and forth on a personal front, I've had donors that have helped me to be able to go back and forth. I don't have that anymore at the moment. I do have a campaign that I have up and running. So many people have given so much, and on behalf of every soldier, I thank you for that. If anybody still has the ability to contribute and to help, I definitely would be so grateful for any assistance that we can get. It helps me to help all of our soldiers. It helps me to be able to continue to go over there and fight for our people. I've put all life on pause for the last 11 months. I'm back in full-time active duty service as far as I'm concerned. So I do have a campaign that is up and running. If people can contribute, I'd be so grateful, or pass it out through all your networks. You know, there's always strength in numbers. I have a PayPal link for that.
What would that be? What is the PayPal link?
So the email address that it's under would be N, like November, Maman, like my last name. So NMAMAN at CT, like Charlie Tom, 707.com. Nmaman at CT707.com. That's the PayPal address that donations can be made to as well. And anything that people contribute would be so greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for asking about that.
Yes, and again, thank you so much for sharing and coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Nir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Be strong. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nir. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'd be grateful for a like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, feel free to leave a rating and review. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.